Let's do this.
All right, okay. Let's do this because I got feelings. Um, I got feelings, and this is the funny thing. I got feelings about a franchise that, as you both know, I care very little about. And it's,
Good start, Steve.
that's it. Um, Welcome back to Screenfish Radio. I am so glad that you could join us this week. Boo! It's Halloween. Scary, kids. Oh, it's scary. Uh, I love YouTube, and I'm so glad you could join us this week as we are talking about Halloween Ends, and to finish off the franchise, we have our horror experts. How did I say horror properly and not experts? The experts. Alan Chabot and Catherine Erskine. Thank you both for joining me. I appreciate it.
Oh, cool.
No problem.
I'm here to fight with both of you.
Let's do this.
Excellent. Oh, this is going to be fun. Halloween Ends takes place 4 years after her last encounter with masked killer Michael Myers, as Laurie Strode is living with her granddaughter and trying to finish her memoir. Myers hasn't been seen since, and Laurie finally decides to liberate herself from rage and fear and embrace life. However, when a young man stands accused of murdering a boy that he was babysitting, it ignites a cascade of violence and terror that forces Laurie to confront the evil she can't control. As always, this podcast is rated S for spoilers. So let's have at it. What did you think of Halloween Ends?
Well, why don't you go ahead?
I kind of want to hear Kat first, actually.
Yeah,
Really?
Yours
I do.
first before I give you mine, because you know.
I'm sensing something really good from Alan.
Oh, okay. So get the garbage one out of the way.
No. And I'm just not. I have a feeling that Alan is going a direction that I didn't expect Alan to go on this one. So
Listen. Yes, it's 4 years later, and yes, Laurie's writing her book, and her granddaughter's living her life and trying to get herself away from that victim role. But I really liked how they had Michael Myers kind of as the shadow that's like weak and in the sewers and recovering from a very, very significant beating 4 years ago. And I do also like the fact that it speaks to what evil is and what it does and how it consumes you, right? We have, what's his name? Tom?
Corey?
Corey.
Oh, Corey. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
We have
Corey.
Corey from
Corey's story.
the previous movie, right? He was the
No,
gardener.
he's
Oh.
brand new.
Yeah. Anyways, I thought he was the gardener, but so we have
He
him.
he was
doing-
in the background. He was cutting the weeds.
Yeah.
And,
he was just
hey,
hanging out.
what's going on over here, everybody?
But babysitting a kid, that's just a pain in the ass, which goes back to the original Halloweens where you're babysitting kids that are pains in your ass. And you're just trying to make a couple extra bucks and you're a totally normal kid. And then all of a sudden, a tragic accident happens that
Tragic?
graphically gross.
That was a very graphic tragedy. I was like,
Yeah.
wow.
But it was
Wow.
like campy too, right? It was like that over the top death, right? So this kid has to live with the opposite of what Laurie's granddaughter has to live with, where Laurie's granddaughter is the like creepy girl, but she's also the one that survived, where he is being seen as a perpetrator and has to kind of parallel with her, deal with that in a very small town, which I thought was smart. And it's how he deals with it and how he gets involved with Michael Myers and her ability to go away from the evil and his ability to get sucked in by it. And Laurie's also stagnant in the sense that she's quote unquote living free and without fear, but all she is consumed by her book and consumed of thoughts of Michael, to the point where her granddaughter's even fed up with it and is like, you're not really like, she's really still stuck in it and not letting herself be free until this book is complete. So all of that and the gory death, the campy death at the beginning, really speaks to the old stuff. Like, they're honoring what they started with, and Laurie still kicks ass, and she still is true to her character, and this town is just dealing with this, and he gets sucked into it. And it's, I'm sorry, but maybe he wasn't as strong as the others, and maybe there was a bigger backstory for him about who he was, but Michael sees in him almost an ability to kind of drain him of what he has in order to heal himself, and he becomes the stereotype creepy kid who accidentally or didn't accidentally kill someone. So I like the themes of evil in there, and the fact that even if you're trying to fake your way out of it like Laurie was, she was still trapped by it, he was consumed by it, and her granddaughter just wanted to get away from it. And in the end, the town got what it wanted. And there was like funny, stupid parts in it too, right? Like all those jokes and everybody coming together at the end was totally ridiculous.
Wait, there were jokes?
It wasn't, I think they could make fun of themselves. There was dumb parts were not serious. They was
okay.
Fun of themselves. Yeah, you know, that whole comedy scene in the middle. So they were able to speak to the story, speak to the evil that is within everyone and the potential of evil in everyone. And they were able to stick through to the campiness of the end, where they all kind of like gathered together and kill him. There was no massive social commentary. There was just stick to the storyline and stick to the stuff from the past. Like when she lifts the knife to kill him and there's the glint of his face in that blade, that's literally the poster from one of the movies. And there were nods to all of that. So of course they left it open, because where's Corey? Right? You know, we never saw that final kill.
Corey dies.
Does he? We never see him after.
Yeah, you do. His body's on the ground when the cops walk in.
His body's on the ground, but that's happened with Michael Myers before, okay?
Wait. You're comparing Michael Myers to Corey.
Maybe Michael is now in Corey. Maybe Corey is now the new Michael. And his legacy of evil lives on. Does it ever really die? But I'm just saying they leave it open for interpretation. And I'm happy about that.
True.
They do. You're not wrong.
Although if they ended it on a 13th movie, I think that would be really appropriate too.
And they released it on a Friday. It's all connected.
All in all, it paid homage to what we watched growing up. It made its own little jokes. It discussed the difference between good and evil and how one becomes evil. And they put him in a giant shredder at the end, and all of the victims were there before. Even that older black lady whose husband died when they were using the whatchamajigger. Was it them that was playing with the drone or whatever? But I just felt it was fun. It was a Halloween movie, and it stuck to the plot. I didn't need anything big. I just needed Michael Myers and Laurie facing off against each other, and that's what they gave you.
That is true.
I got what I paid for. I didn't pay for it, but
I was gonna say, you covered it for us. Wait a second.
Yeah.
I got what I paid for my popcorn.
Yeah, the diarrhea that happened.
That's right.
All right, fight me, Alan.
Hashtag Halloween ends gave cat diarrhea.
How can I top that?
Halloween ends ruined my end.
I didn't have diarrhea from this episode. I was fine. The moment I got home and found out I could download it, I was like, okay, I can do this now.
All our listeners are thrilled that your bowel movements were normal in this particular screening.
I'm lactose intolerant, so I mean, like, I could have had
Technically, I could have said it scared the sheesh out of me. But...
Yeah, right? You know? Okay, my opinion on this movie is I agree and disagree with you. I liked the first half. I did not like the second half.
Okay.
I didn't mind the whole, Michael mentorship with Corey. I thought it was a good take. I was like, because then it made me question, is there, what if, okay, what exists in Michael? Is it an essence? Is it a thing? Did
Mhm.
it pass? Because there's this part where they do look at each other before he
Yeah.
lets him go. And it made me wonder, like, is that supposed to be a supernatural element? Like, I don't know. Like, Michael was always this, like, historical kind of, well, not historical, but I mean, like, we didn't know, what it was, what
Mhm.
keeps him coming back. Is it evil? Is it an energy? Is it a power? Is it like, what is it? So,
Maybe
that
it's
kind of was
mutiny.
interesting. But I also feel like this was the first Halloween movie where they actually made him look old.
They did.
So every movie, I'm not saying, it's not an interesting take. It's just, you have this mystery behind somebody where you think, they could be anything, which means like almost like a Jason or like a Freddy, like they keep coming back to like humanize him. Immediately, it was like, okay, this isn't the same Michael that we're used to seeing.
Hmm.
So I understand the kind of the concept, but I also feel like the lead up is what I'm kind of missing, because like it was so like on point for the first two, and then they did the jump, which maybe it was necessary, I don't know. I still feel like it, maybe if it was the same night, maybe that closure still could have been, but then they couldn't have done the mentorship. So I mean, like, it's like one of those things that's like I'm still okay with it, but then I didn't like how they twisted it. Him stabbing himself, although brilliant, but at the same time I was like, what are you doing? Like, but then it made me wonder, is it in him too? Is he going to come back? It's definitely one of those things. As far as the battle though, I mean, I compare that to like a Freddy versus Jason kind of thing. That was an epic battle, and I didn't find this one to be very epic. So I mean, it was final. Yes, they killed him, they paraded him around town to show everybody that he was dead, bled him dry. It was a little, I got it, but I also felt like it was too easy. It was like, that's it. Like, you gave me three movies and this is it, like, and then like the fact that everyone decided to be nice to her afterwards was kind of a stupid too, because it was like, like why they were hating on her in the first place. Like, that's not her fault. She didn't ask him to come after her. So, I mean, to blame her throughout that, I wasn't happy with the people, yelling at her, making her feel like bad, because like, what did she ask for? She was a teenager that got stalked by a crazy idiot that continued on for 40 years. Like, are you really gonna hate her that much? Like, she didn't do anything. So, but the movie, okay, I can't say I didn't enjoy it. Obviously, I'm gonna always say, I'll enjoy the movies that, what they do. But like, I did not feel like I got my due with this, because there is some question of, is it going to pass on with this, now missing body?
Mm-hmm.
It could. Jamie Lee Curtis signed a thing saying that she's not coming back ever. So her character's done. But I mean, I also thought it was going to go a different route when I was watching it in the beginning. I thought the granddaughter was becoming the new Laurie, and he was becoming the new Michael. And it was like, oh, now he's going to chase her now and become all obsessive. And then, they'll kind of drag it from there. But they obviously, they didn't go that route. So, I mean, I had a lot of different thoughts when I was watching it, because I was trying to figure out, like, okay, how does this all tie together? Why is this so epic? And maybe because they had so much action in the first two, maybe that's why it was a little bit more softer, I don't know. But I just felt like for the ending, not that it wasn't good, I just felt like it needed more, because I also wanted to question, like, is Laurie going to die? Like, is she finally going to get taken out? Like, is she going to end up leaving with a really bad scar this time? Like, there was a couple of moments where I felt like, okay, is this it? But I mean, she got him, but at the same time I was like, is that the final ending for her though? I mean, like, maybe, I don't know. I feel like I always like the idea of them kind of both be taking each other out, like that
Yeah.
final, like, ha ha, they give a look or something, and then it's just like, I mean, I don't think it's more intense that way, but that's just my thoughts on it. But I mean, like, I'm not saying it's a bad movie. It is a good movie. I am still going to get it to finalize my collection, but at the same time, I do kind of wish that it was a little bit more like, Freddy versus Jason style fighting, like, let's, Mortal Kombat, like, fatality, kind
Yeah.
of moment. I just felt like this was more of like a simple, okay, slice, slice, slice. He's dead, grind him up.
Don't you feel like don't you feel like though that's kind of what society does? Like, if we can't find a bad guy to blame something on, we're just going to blame the closest thing to it. And Laurie is so tied to to Michael, that basically it's like this Laurie is now living in this town that she's cursed. Every time she shows up, there's an issue. And so I could see why the townspeople would be like, we're kind of done with you. Like, you need to end this, and this is your fault. But I don't know. What do you think about that?
I get it, but I mean, I also feel like she still didn't deserve it, though. Like, again, she
absolutely not. And I feel like
in the film doesn't suggest that she does. The question isn't whether or not she deserves it. I think it's a fair question to say that that's the sort of thing that happens.
It is. Well, yeah,
it happens people are always willing to point a finger.
You have to find someone to blame. Yeah, especially in tragedy.
It changes like the tide, right? Like, we hate for people vilify one person one day, and then all of a sudden they're the hero.
Yeah.
And maybe her parading him through the town and letting them all be a part of his death, is her giving like their opportunity to kind of like catharsis for everyone. It's not just me that's been affected. It's now affected everyone.
On a human level, that'd be traumatizing, though. Mm-hmm. Like, to see a dead body tied to a car parading down the street. I mean, like, you have to really think ethically now. Like, is that right?
Well, they said that we don't do this here, and he said, "Tonight we do."
Tonight we do. That's right.
I just felt like, it puts into question, because there's a lot of layers to that as well.
Yeah, the ethics
to like politically, certain situations. I mean, then it becomes a question of, look how easy you got there, rather than thinking of the actual dilemma that was kind of faced, right? So I mean, like, if it's that easy just tonight, right? Oh, just tonight, then it just becomes
like Purge,
right?
That's it. It's a Purge prequel.
And does it breed evil in the town to allow for this one night of like, listen, we're gonna look the other way tonight?
I think you have an interesting concept there. I mean, like, that would have been interesting. Maybe them parading him out to try and give him death. Maybe a little bit of him went into everybody, and now you have like this, epic
town of Michaels.
Yeah, like just the little Michael people coming out of nowhere, like, oh, you're one too. Together, be all creepy or something. I don't know.
Michael Myers is.
Yeah. It's Michael working at a car wash, Michael at the bar.
They all do the look.
Yeah.
That's good.
I have to share my thoughts.
Not allowed. Sorry. Anyways,
I have to. I have so many feelings. I want to say before.
Did you watch it, or did you walk the dog halfway through it?
No, I was in theater. I didn't have the dog with me. A couple of caveats. Anybody who listens to this knows that horror is my least favorite genre. So, and anybody who remembers last year when we did Halloween Kills knows that you two brought me into this franchise. Like, I had no experience with it until we sat down and watched this. So I watched the first one.
To add it to your roster.
And I watched the original, and I watched I was going to say Extra Crispy. I was going to say I watched the reboot and the sequel because we were doing Halloween Kills. And I really liked them.
Which was so preachy, but good.
I loved that about it. And I remember us disagreeing on it because that's what I thought was so interesting, is I thought that it had a point.
I didn't pay to see politics.
That's what you said.
Yes.
That's what I did.
I didn't pay to see politics.
I was actually really excited about this film. And I also, now they threw me a little bit at first because I was like, I loved the idea that all three films should have been the same night. It's stupid, but I thought it was a really interesting idea. Like, the movie's called Halloween, so it's one day anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, okay, the whole thing happens in one night, and you did it well in the first two movies. So I'm like, okay, this makes sense. All right, there's a time jump. Sure. All right, that happened. Fine. And there were things I liked. I need to say that there were things I liked. I actually, and nobody mentioned this, I appreciated that Laurie Strode was moving on without revenge in her mind. Like, it opens with her saying there's no guns, there's no traps, there's no nothing in the house. And I thought to myself, I thought that's really interesting. It's not what I'm expecting, but it's really interesting because somebody who has endured a trauma and they're going to, in a film where they're trying to wrap up, what, 12 movies? Is this 12 you said? This is the 12th one?
This is the 13th.
13th one. And they're wrapping it up without her having to kill him. Her having, like, it's not that we know that she's going to kill him, but she doesn't have to do it. You know what I mean? She's trying to move on. This book is her way of killing him. You know what I mean? I'm like, that's actually a really interesting message. I agree with you, Kat, on the conversations about evil. I want to have those conversations. We will have those conversations. Now, having said all these things, I thought it was one of the silliest movies I've seen this year. And not just because I know you're like, oh, it's campy. No, it's bad writing. And I will tell you why. Tell
me a Halloween movie that has won an Oscar for its writing.
I'm not saying it's going to win an Oscar.
Yeah.
I'm saying that this is not a third movie at all.
Yeah.
Ironically, had this film come out previously, it would have fit better in the trilogy.
Like if it was 1 or 2?
If this was number 2, because they introduce a new main character for the whole movie for like no reason at all. Now, I understand the theme of passing on evil. I'm just talking strictly like rules of trilogy. You had 40, you are trying to wrap up 40 years in this film. And the main character is Corey.
Yeah.
And it's like, who? I mean, in the last movie, they're like, oh, I was the kid she babysat. And, oh, I remember that night. And you're bringing in Corey. I'm like, okay. All right, this is a very unexpected. And I thought the love plot was an excuse because they were never going to do Laurie and Michael. And I'm not saying they should have. I'm saying they were never going to do Laurie and Michael, but they were trying to explore this idea of yeah, I think they were yes. Because I think
Michael's falling in love.
Because for the same reason.
I still stand that he's her brother. So
yeah, that's what I mean. Like, that's weird.
I'm not saying it would have made sense, but I think there's an impulse because the two of them have been drawn together for 40 years for them to sort of suggest
the love of killing each other.
Not love, but some sort of like I love
you.
I just felt like that they were trying to do that with this story. That's why I'm not saying they were going to go that route.
That's all I'm picturing. I'm just like, yeah, that's exactly what I see now.
And it was, but I mean, and again, 40 years, and you're wrapping up the big bad as a sickly old man in the sewer. Who no. Before you defend this, that by the end of the film, Corey. And I'm going to keep using his name because his name is Corey. And I don't know why I think that's so funny, but I do. Corey's like, I need something from you, and takes his mask by pushing him over. And it's like, he got beat up by 20 people in the last film. And
that's what aged him and caused him to have to go into this shadow dungeon of a sewer.
Shadow dungeon. He's eating rats for 4 years and the occasional passerby.
Yeah. He got stronger once he connected with Corey. Yeah. What do you want his name to be? Trevor? Brad?
This is Brad.
Casey, maybe?
Chet. His name is Chet. But I mean, like, there's nothing like. I actually, in some ways, I really appreciated Corey's journey. Like, they wanted to show how evil generates, and I was like, okay, I'm on board with this. But as a movie, it kind of worked. To wrap up this trilogy, it did not.
I'll give you that. You don't bring in a new character in the last one unless you're intending on making this
Continuous.
a new generation. And I don't want that to happen. I feel like they'll wreck it if they bring in a new Halloween with Corey.
Yeah, like this
like,
isn't Scream.
Corey Matthews as Michael Myers. Wait, Corey Matthews was the guy on Boy Meets World. But
oh my gosh, that's a twist. I'd watch that.
Oh my god.
I do agree with that, but do you think it was a relationship or do you think it was a trauma bond
between the two of them?
Yeah.
Oh, it may have been. And you see, this is what I'm saying about them going. I think they were avoiding doing that with Michael and Laurie, because I think they could have hinted at a trauma bond between the two of them, and it would have made sense. I'm not saying I don't think it would have been well liked, but I think they could have gone that way. It would have made sense. But like,
I think that's like when Alan said like he was thinking that they would create the new Laurie and the new Michael. Right. And I think that be the trauma bond that keeps Michael and Laurie together is now being focused on the younger generation, and that because I didn't see it as like so romantic, like I'm in love with you. Like, yes, it may have started out with like having flirting and stuff, but it was almost like they were both trying to escape something, and one was falling into it and one was getting away from it.
Yes, I liked that. I liked that. And I want to talk about that too, because I like there were things I liked. Mm-hmm. But okay, in all seriousness, think about this just for the minute. Cut off the last 5 minutes or last 10 minutes of both of the second and third movies and switch them. So like the end of this movie with most of the second movie, and the end of the second movie with most of like this movie.
They're both works the same way.
No. I think with the end with the final fight scene, you got to keep that. But the idea that evil is spreading through the city, which you said, they say that. See, this is what also upset me. They say that in the opening scene, evil is spreading throughout the city, and it's not. It's all in Corey. And it's like,
or is it the people turning against Corey for he had an accident? Like,
no, it's the same as with Laurie. They're just blaming him. It is the
same as with Laurie. That's what they're connecting it to. It's the same thing.
Yeah, but I don't think it's because they show other people that are committing acts of violence in that opening sequence with Laurie. She talks about how, you know, it's infecting others, and I'm like, oh, this is very interesting. Maybe there's going to be a lot of people, but like that mob mentality would have worked so much better in the next film.
Yes,
that's what I'm saying. This is a good second film, and all they had to say was somehow to tie Corey to the rest of the franchise. But he's an entirely new. Like if they'd said like, oh, okay, no, that would have been weird.
The first one that survived.
Well, he could have been, or someone's son who survived. You know, my dad remembers that night. Oh yeah, that's great. Okay, thanks for watching our kid. He's just a kid. And now again, if they want to show how evil spreads, maybe you want a kid who's completely fresh and clean at the start of the film and totally innocent. But I'm like, this is what upset me about it, is that it didn't work as a trilogy. And I thought the whole point was to make this a trilogy, and it felt like this one didn't follow the trajectory they had followed. And I really liked the second one, because I thought Evil Dies Tonight got really repetitive, but it was actually trying to get somewhere. And I like elevated horror. I've talked about this. This I actually do very much like horror with a point. But that's what I really liked about the second one. And I felt like it should have been the third movie if this was always going to be the last one.
Yeah.
I can see what you mean about the mob mentality, like the ending of the second one maybe being the ending of the third. And I think they tried to bring it back around to that by parading him through the city.
Yes, I did catch that.
Tying them together and having the victims all come to the place where it was, like all of the surviving victims were there from the first and second movie. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think like introducing a brand new character makes me very nervous that they're not done with this franchise, and that to me would be a disservice, because if Jamie Lee Curtis isn't coming back, then I don't want like, we've seen the ones that didn't have Jamie Lee Curtis in it, and we all know how that's turned out. But like, I don't. It makes me nervous that they're leaving their options open to create a new Halloween, and I would have liked a very neat and clean. This is it. Let's put it to bed.
I know they've already done it. I would be. I like in that case, if they were going to continue it, I would be okay with them, but they would have to reboot it. You'd have a new Laurie Strode.
Yeah, and I would never watch that.
Well, I know, but I know Rob Zombie, but
Rob Zombie one, no thank you. I didn't like those.
Yeah.
I honestly,
a little more darker.
Somebody likes Rob Zombie's work. It's not me. I'm sorry, Rob Zombie, if you're listening to this. I appreciate
if you're
you as a
listening to
person.
this,
I appreciate.
The movie didn't sit with me, but I still own it. For context.
Yeah, you have to. It's part of the thing of it. But like, I get the whole not fitting in with the trilogy. I see where you're going with that.
That was what I didn't like.
I don't want there to be any loose ends. I didn't love that there were loose ends with Corey.
Yeah,
after you say it,
they would. But yeah, they didn't.
They did not. Like, Corey just kind of like, yeah, he was down on the ground and the police came in, and then we never saw him again. But in speaking to Michael Myers aging like that, maybe it is a glimmer of hope that evil does weaken.
Pass on.
And yeah, I hope that evil passes on to me. No, like that it does come to a point of like, is this going to continue or is this done? And Michael Myers was pretty done.
Yeah. Well, that's a good question, though. I mean, this leans into one I think is the key questions of the film. Is, do you think that evil is infectious? And if it's infectious, is it contagious?
100% it's contagious. Look at mob mentality. Look at anything is contagious now because you put it on the internet and everyone has the ability to comment and to gripe and groan. And I honestly, even in regular life, I think evil is contagious and can become a mob mentality. Just takes a spark, right?
I agree. Handmaid's Tale, our society isn't too far off from that. So I just look at that and go, that's pretty much the same thing. You have one person's cause that enough people for some reason start to agree with, and then it becomes a question of, well, which side are you on? And then mob mentality can happen even in that situation. So I mean, who's right, who's wrong, and then the fight breaks out, and then it's just chaos. So I mean, like, it just feeds off each other, because then people just start getting, they affected by whatever is being said, or their ability to speak their mind, and that continues and continues. It's like Twitter.
Yeah, exactly.
One person says something, and next thing you know, you have like 100 people putting their 2 cents in, and it's like, okay.
Yeah. Oh, it's just a breeding ground.
I've seen it on Facebook too. Same thing with the comments. Someone says one comment that no one agrees with, and the next thing you know, you have like plus 50 underneath the one name, and you're just like, what happened there?
And then it gets to the point where it's like, you should kill yourself because you didn't like the same.
And then it's like, wow, like people go real extreme so quickly.
But as a listener and viewer, please remember to like and subscribe here at this.
You don't leave any mean comments under this video. We are fragile and cannot handle it. I think it's always been like that. Like, if we're talking, this is now off the topic of the movie and off the topic of evil. Look at Hitler and like how he turned an entire like masses of people, and they didn't have social media and all of this access, right? Like, evil is like a disease. It eats you from the inside out.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it's interesting we're talking about mob mentality. I don't think it has to be that either. I don't think it has to be mob mentality. I think it's like a baton. And I think it can be passed. And I think we see countless stories of abuse. And like, I've been working in ministry for over 20 years, and I've seen scars And I've seen people and teenagers who have had evil done to them, and it festers and it festers. And I like the story. That's what I liked about the story of the granddaughter and Corey. I don't remember the granddaughter's name, but I remember Corey. And this idea of the battle, almost the battle for their souls here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And because like and Corey is just constantly being affirmed that he is the villain. No, mind you, he does keep accidentally killing people in the first half of the movie, but it's
accidentally. I mean, are we
he accidentally kills the homeless man. That was an accident. I mean, it's just, yeah. I thought it was.
Why did he let you live?
I'm not saying. I mean, anyway, but like the idea of it festering, I think for sure.
I could definitely feel like like in him, I feel like you see the progression.
Yes, you do.
The beginning up until the point where like now he's seeking it out. Like, and then there's that epic scene where they kill that one girl or whatever, and Michael takes over.
Yeah.
Him the normal way that he would do it. Like I think he did in the first movie that way, and that's why they were kind of paying homage to it, and holding her up and then win. But it was good. That's what I mean. Like I like that aspect of it. But again, it also becomes a question of is this a force? Is this an entity? Is it just something that spreads gradually? Is it psychological? Like on what scale do you think it's necessarily kind of passing through? Like I know they kind of touched on it a bit and said that after the last one there's a series of this and copycats and blah 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 or whatever, and then you're both just
no, we're listening.
You froze for a second. And it speaks to resiliency too, right? Like do we have those supports in our lives? Did he have those supports? Delsean is here.
Oh, hi.
Hi, Del.
Hello. And just that, like, sure, Laurie and her granddaughter weren't always seeing eye to eye, but they had each other, and they knew that in the end. And who were his supports, and where were they?
He didn't really have any. I mean,
he didn't.
And then with the bullying, I mean, like, it was nice that Jamie Lee Curtis's character obviously, like, jumped in there to try and help him out, but then it just got worse. If anything, it kind of fueled what was already bubbling inside him.
Yeah.
So if anything, it kind of added to, him wanting to go back to the sewer and see Michael and, seek him out basically. And then, obviously work with him.
Well, I mean, first of all, he's getting beat up by kids in marching band, but that's a whole other story. But I mean, I think in any trauma, and the brain is left hurt and injured and wounded. If you keep reinforcing darkness, you can lose sight of reality pretty quick.
For sure.
And I think that's what happened with Corey.
Corey.
With Corey. But I mean, it seems strange. He's like keeps going back to the sewer, but in a world where everybody's beating on you and you have somebody who everybody fears, why wouldn't you? Like, he essentially says, doesn't he? I think he actually literally says, "Teach me." I think he says something to that effect.
It's a really bad Big Brother, Big Sister program.
And in like a twisted way too, it's like it seems like Michael was the only one that really like showed that he was on his side, or that like cared for him in a really sick, twisted way. Like wasn't beating him up and didn't end up killing him when he saw him face to face, kind of thing, right? So he was like, okay, no one else like, and I isn't Corey, right? Yeah, didn't have like the best like life with his mom, and you know what I mean. Like I guess his dad tried, but hard to have that relationship. But it just seemed that like he was getting in a sick twisted way the most support from going down there and then learning the Michael's ways, I guess. So
And when Michael was a kid, he was an outcast.
yeah,
It's true.
And he was a weirdo, and he was, I don't know, a murderer, I guess. But depending on which movie you watch. But yeah, maybe it was like a protege. It was like he saw something in him that he recognized.
Yeah.
And did
Well,
with love.
Love. Baby, don't hurt me no more. Well, okay, if that's the case, you know, with this particular film, with this one in the thing, what do you think it says, or what has to be done to contain or even kill evil? Because as evil killed, I mean, the last thing Laurie says of the film is evil never dies.
it never dies.
It changes shape.
Form.
Which, by the way, did they ever call that guy the Shape other than like the opening credits? I was like,
No.
oh, the Shape. Oh, okay. That's going to be his super villain name.
Yeah,
And
no, they never referred to it again.
sure, it was like they put it there so they could just make the line resonate at the end. Anyway, but I was wondering what you think of that.
I think it's true that you eradicate one aspect of evil and it comes up again in other. It's like a constant battle forever. And it's going to change, and it's going to come in different forms, and it's going to come in different avenues and venues and different, and be presented differently, but there's always something.
Yeah, I agree. I personally think that, it's like, where there's light, there's dark, where there's dark, there's light, there's balance. So, I mean, like, you can't have one without the other. So just because this version of evil is over doesn't mean that it's not going to continue to exist afterwards. It could be different next time. Maybe it's a different mask that's coming. Maybe this is their opportunity to introduce a new legendary character,
Which is Corey, because really what happened to him.
Right?
Even Delsean.
Who knows?
Legendary Corey.
Just doesn't have that scary ring to it.
And it's like he has that attraction too. Like he's very attractive. So you never know. The girls are gonna be like, hey. And then he's gonna be like, I'm gonna kill you.
Corey the seducer.
There you go.
That's the new franchise.
That's perfect.
Corey the seducer.
I will never. But yeah, like it changes shape. It's a good thing to lean on because it does bring in that preachy aspect of the second one, of like, it is all consuming, and it can, depending on who you are and what you have within you, it can consume you. And some people actually let it, like in a way, Corey let it, and he liked it.
And I also think as well, like Kat, you were saying that like Michael didn't have a great upbringing either, right? So it was like all this hate was like thrown at him, right? And like same with Corey.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, okay, so those people are horrible. Like that's what's going through your head, right? As someone that's being bullied or whatever. And a lot of times bullies don't end up like thriving in society. Like it just kind of like, you know what I mean? Like it can, if not like supported by supportive people around you, like it can go one way or another. And that's, I feel like the evil, when you're trying to evil in, it's like, oh, it's easier to be evil than it is to be kind, right? Like that's what people say all the time. It's easier to be negative and hateful than it is to be kind and positive. So
no, it's not.
And on that note, no, I'm just talking the thing over. We're done. It's over.
And That's a wrap. No.
Halloween ends with Catherine in the bathroom.
No, I think
Ooh,
it's
I had the diarrhea poops from the popcorn.
Is this a podcast?
Yeah,
Yep.
but he can edit this out.
Don't edit it. Don't do it.
I can't
Welcome.
edit out all of her poop stories. I'm gonna. There's too many.
Be a 3-minute podcast.
We're talking about Halloween Ends. Welcome to the conversation where we started the conversation. This was creepy.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for joining us. I will say I thought it was interesting though in the film that the granddaughter is actually directly asked by Corey whether or not or what saved her.
Mm-hmm.
Does she say her mother? I think she says her mother. Or does she say her grandmother?
Maybe your grandma.
See, I'm not I don't remember that, but I mean it was some indication. I thought she said her mother.
Maybe.
But I
'Cause
could be
didn't it-
wrong.
Because then didn't it turn to like a clip of a picture that's like in the house or something with like what's the mom's name? Anyways, I can't really remember.
Who knows what the mother's name is? They barely mention her in this one. Her death meant nothing.
I call her Fern.
Pardon?
I don't remember her death, so
I call her a name from a different movie that she was in. Fern Mayo.
Okay. With the death of Fern. No, but there's something there in, like you talked about before, about supportive environment and just a positive voice. And that's what I said. That was what I liked. I liked that Laurie still wasn't hell bent on revenge, because in my mind, it showed real maturity to make that step. It was like they didn't just want to, okay, let's go. I'm ready. I'm gonna kill him. To make her into the Linda Hamilton, the Terminator. They wanted to show real growth in her by she's working out her book and she's trying. There's no traps in the house, although again, it's jarring.
Are the traps not just in her mind?
I don't think she was. I don't think she was gearing up for a fight.
And says you're not you're not free from evil and death. You're obsessed with it.
yeah, but don't you think that's only because of like Corey starting to be like weird?
A wackadoo? But
And,
yes,
like,
but
and
it
then
turns out she's right,
the
so she
scene-
should have been.
But it's like I get how like you can still a bit be positive and that not consume your mind until the things around you start to be like question it, like what's going on, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
so is
yeah.
Allison just angry at her because she says
yeah, for sure, because she's like, oh, you don't want me to be with Corey and whatever and all that stuff, right? And she's like, I just want you to be safe, and then something like that.
Because she says you pretend you moved on, but you're actually just obsessed with death.
No, see, yeah, I just thought that was. I know she's not a teen, but I just thought of it as like teen angst. Like it was sort of like,
yeah, like lashing out because
you don't want me to be with Corey.
yeah.
Well,
and I feel like for her granddaughter, it's probably in a while, because her previous partner was like horrible, right? Like he's that drunk cop or something like that, or like an alcoholic or something. Yeah. So it's almost like the granddaughter's like, oh my gosh, this guy like really likes me and like wants to like drive away into the sunset, like, you know what I mean, like have a life together. So it's like the honeymoon phase, like you're consumed by it, right? So
yeah, right before the killing spree. It's
But it's not
that's one heck of
until-
a honeymoon phase.
it's always what happens.
It's not until 4 years to write a book, but it's not until she kills.
I mean,
Sorry.
come on, Laurie.
That was my
Write your
main
book.
thing, is that she's holding on to this for 4 years and writing it, but it's not until he's actually dead that she A, finishes the book, and B, finally starts to look outside for her relationship with that cop.
I see what you're saying.
Okay, that's a fair point.
So it's like she's
That's a fair
holding on
point.
to.
So smart.
I know, I'm a genius. She's holding on to this stuff. And that's the quote is, yes, she's being a sassy teenager, but she's always seeing the negatives. And it isn't until he's finally dead that she can close the book, and then she can say, tell me about those cherry blossoms.
Oh Oh yeah, that was good.
She won't let herself live until
Yeah.
go to Japan.
yeah.
The book thing's kind of been done though. I mean, they did it in Scream 4.
That's
Yeah.
the
Sorry,
issue.
what did you say?
The book thing.
The book thing.
People
Her
write
writing a
books.
Yeah,
book.
and Courtney Cox
All-
wrote that book
Well,
faster
she wrote
than
it- well,
4
yeah,
years.
well, yeah, obviously. It's true, you're right. Good
Like,
point.
this is
She was
not a
already in a
new
movie
story.
making section.
Oh yeah.
This
Okay.
is a way to pay off your mortgage, is what that
Right.
is. It's like,
It's for all the
Better
therapy.
write a book.
But that
see-
does speak to the fact that you can be trapped still
that's fair.
without the real traps.
No, that's true. That's a fair point. I like that point. I still got the sense, though, that as she was writing, she was at peace. Nervous?
She was trying.
Yes. Like this was like when we see her in the reboot in Halloween, she's ready to go. She's been training for 40 years. You know, she's been like, I'm ready to go. And she's not just holding on to it, she's preparing for war.
Yeah.
For what she thinks is inevitable. In this film, she's a very peaceful character, you know, until she
is
slices
calmer.
him. And her involvement isn't because she has to kill Michael. Her involvement is to try and save her granddaughter.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like she goes and spends time with Corey and actually tries to save Corey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, sits in there and says and talks to him about, being careful and coming back and there's not too late. But see, that to me that's killing evil. Now, I mean, it may be at the end of the film, it's like, okay, this guy is dead. But as we said, the evil's not gone. It's just changed shape, right? So it's not that it's a perfect space, but this idea of killing evil is much more psychological and even pseudo spiritual in some ways. And I don't mean like, you know, they were praying for it, but like there's a healing of her soul that is trying to
And
happen.
her evil is gone now.
Yes,
why she's
that's
able
what I mean.
to open up, and that's why she's able to accept these other people in her life. So it may do like what we were saying and change shape, and then it becomes someone else's evil.
Yeah.
I really hope it doesn't, though.
Corey's.
Let Michael rest. Corey's revenge.
Corey the name
Corey
Corey just makes me think of this guy in a Letterman jacket going to high school in the mid 80s. That's what it
Yeah.
is.
On the football team.
Killing
The
everyone.
football team.
There's
That's
contact
right.
on, you won't even recognize him, and then he'll
Yeah.
reveal. He'll be like, "It's me, Corey."
It's Corey, it's you. I remember when you were on the yearbook committee.
Yeah.
Oh, Corey.
That Corey.
That's so Corey. That's the next movie.
That's so
That's
Corey.
so Corey.
Everyone's just like, oh, Corey.
Four people died last night. Oh, Corey.
That Corey, you know him. Such a rascal.
Such a rascal. All
I
right.
do hope Halloween has ended.
And our podcast should probably start ending as well.
10,
I'm glad I was
15.
able to like pop in.
I'm glad you did too. In fact, you can stay for this too since you're here. We're going to screen it or skip it. Halloween ends. Screen it or skip it.
Screen it.
Screen it.
Yeah, screen it.
Alan, really?
Because if you've seen the first two, if you haven't seen the third one, it'd be kind of stupid to be like, "Don't watch it." So I mean,
Honestly,
I'm going to say skip it.
Wow.
I feel like don't skip it because if you have invested, like me and Catherine watched it, like I know this is like campy horror, like it's not like, but like I don't watch horror movies at all. And like Catherine started slowly introducing them to me last year. So we watched them around like Halloween and then it falls into Christmas or whatever.
She's watched all 13 movies now.
Yeah. So
Wow.
I feel like you owe it to yourself to kind of end it for yourself. Like, so screen it. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
It's fair.
I agree.
Might
Yeah.
as well. Like it's
I-
it's a little bit I mean, I was sitting there kind of being like, okay, like I got it. Like we know he's gonna like die. So people are like, well, do you know he's gonna die? Like the man's gonna die, people are gonna whatever, right? But like just might as well. Like you've invested all your time into the other movies.
And if you're a Halloween fan, you've wasted a lot of other movies
It's true.
that were worse than this one.
That's
All the-
fair.
Like, yes, we
Resurrection.
definitely wasted a lot of our time.
There's a lot of
And we have to
Halloweens
keep
that-
going.
Yeah.
So
I still say this is a half decent middle movie. It should have. Dell wasn't here for this part. My argument is that this should have been the second movie, building up to the second movie, or what became the second movie. Like by the second movie, everybody's going crazy. Like this would have been a good lead up to it. But anyway,
And
so if you want to watch it, you could watch Halloween, Halloween Ends, Halloween Kills. Sure.
I don't know about that one. Now you're just like,
yeah,
okay.
now you're just screwing it up.
yeah, just watch all
Again, I don't have any investment in
whoever's
this
out
franchise.
there in the podcast world. Just watch all the movies.
If you
You might as well. If you're sick or you're just not working, might as well just watch some. What else you can do with your life? You know?
if you sat through Halloween 3 and watched that entire
Yeah.
movie, you better sit through this movie because
Right.
you owe it to yourself to end this.
And on that note, good. No, I'm just joking.
Fantastic. And on that note, thank you all so much for being here and being part of the conversation. I really do appreciate it. And for all of you who are listening, a reminder, you can find us wherever podcasts are available. And you can like and subscribe to us on YouTube because as we said before, social media is the gold standard of entertainment in our
The root
culture.
of all evil.
I think that's why it's the root of all evil.
Creeps in.
If you go to the podcast page at screenfish.net, you can download Fishing for More, which are some small group questions to get the conversation started where you are. I hope that we'll be back next week. I'm having some problems getting the schedule worked out, but
I'm having some problems. Like, do we need a therapy session?
I mean, I won't be here next
I do
week,
need that.
but
No.
It's been a blast in a glass.
Tune in next time when we review Corey Kills.
Oh, I'll definitely be here. For
That's
that
so Corey.
one. 'Cause
That's so
I
Corey.
mean, like,
That's
who
such a
doesn't
Corey
have
thing to
crush on
do.
little Corey?
That's such a Corey thing to do. As always, we started the conversation. This was Screenfish.